Hope we're doing well tonight. This is Vigor Warriors 2, and back again with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 in the 1% Club. Hope you guys are conquesting. Hope you guys are having a great evening. I wanted to kind of do another one because we had some great comments today. I'm going to do a little bit of talking about that first, and then we'll get into a topic as well, because the last comment that I got from our viewer Down to Earth talking about the connection with God. We're going to talk about that one and talk about God meditation. TKO had a comment about it as well. But let's go ahead first, and thank you, by the way, for all the comments. Wonderful. I appreciate those likes and subscriptions. I'm glad that it's making a difference. I'm glad it's helping. And any way we can do this more and talk about topics. I know we talk about women and women's attraction a lot. That's a key element in trying to stay retained and not trying to reduce, all kinds of other types of things that you can go into, addictions and things like that. Self-control is a mastery of that one is a key to this whole thing. And that's when it comes to retention. It's because you're looking at women, and obviously you're involved with women. So that's why we talk about this the most. However, a lot of other great topics, they're benefits of retention. We'll talk about that a little bit in a second. All right. I'm not going to go through a lot of shout outs, but I will talk about 3 or 4 that we had today, and then go back to the list a little bit later in another one. For Eva Made 143 talks about social anxiety. Is there social anxiety? Does semen retention help that? It does, in my opinion at least. And from my experiences, I can tell you that my anxiety level is a lot less. I'm not scared of things and anxiety as I was before when I was releasing. I think keeping your nutrients, keeping everything within you is making you stronger and allowing you to be able to deal with those things. And I think, as we'll talk in a second, you are closer to God when you are retaining. I believe that fully. And that makes it even stronger because you're allowing God to take over your life and take care of those situations, so you don't have to worry about those things. My voice talked about watching videos about monk mode, and this is an interesting one, I think, and we'll probably do a whole topic on this a little bit. I fully believe, after doing all this for the last 3 years and being able to kind of stay on a pattern, I've kind of gone from thinking about edging all those things to monk mode, and I'm not great at monk mode. I'm still working on that myself. That's my challenge as a warrior, but I do think that's the key to the whole thing. I think you have to, no matter what you're doing, you have to be able to detach. This attraction to women has to be detached. You have to get involved in your purpose. You have to make sure that you're doing your thing. That's when all these positive things will happen to you. And a lot of that is caused by the fact that you're not lusting or you're not thinking about women all the time. And that comes from retention. That comes from a long-term retention where you're building a habit of focusing on your goals, bettering yourself, and not thinking about women as much, whether it's pictures or real life women, things like that. You're focusing on different things that's making you stronger as a person. And that's important to kind of focus on. Coolslim talks about a cougar and a caretaker. That's a cougar. For you, a lot of you young guys, you're going to have this focused on, and this is going to be something that's going to be something you're going to have to keep an eye on, because I think that women are going to be attracted to you of all ages, and especially as women get older. It's an interesting type of paradox that men, a lot of times, their sexual prowess is in their 20s, while women are fertile. But then as women get older, they become sexually, attached in their 40s and 50s, and they become a little more active. And a lot of men are burnt out by that point in time. So you have to kind of think to yourself, if you're a man that, has a woman that wants to continue doing that, and you're going to be strong as you go on, especially with intensity and those things. But once again, you don't want to release, and that's the key. Moy Hernandez, Stoicism, is that related? Yes. Moy, that's right. I said May, but I apologize. Moy, thank you. Yes, good point. Stoicism is related to it, and that's important. And then we'll talk about Down to Earth. So at 4 minutes and 30 seconds to 4:40, let's talk about this. So Down to Earth and TKO had a couple comments here, and let's talk about this situation. So both of them have kind of mentioning that we need to meditate. TKO is talking about meditation, and SR, I'm going to combine this a little bit with Down to Earth's comment that he made today, talking about how important it is to have a relationship with God, and he's feeling stronger to God as he's retaining. And this, in my opinion, is absolutely correct. Great. Both TKO and Down to Earth, the viewers, make excellent points, which I support entirely. I think that when you're meditating, you're praying, you're relating off to God. And so the whole art of keeping your semen, keeping that inside of you is very important, because what you're doing is really recognizing that God has given you everything you need. You don't have to take it upon yourself, and you're not going to get into sinning and lusting and adultery and all those other types of things. You're avoiding all that, and you're becoming that strong individual, that man that God wants you to be. He has made you a man. And I know we talk a lot about this stuff, the deviant stuff that's happening in society. But you are a man. And part of that then is to be able to say, God is, you recognize it, and you're keeping all the things inside of you that God has given you. It talks about the fact in the Bible and a lot of other religious texts that if you release, you are dirty. Now, obviously, when it comes to procreation, I don't, I feel that your creator, at least in my case, I feel our creator doesn't have a problem with that part of it. But releasing just for the fact that you're releasing with no purpose in mind, that's a huge issue. And you have to actually, you're dirty for, I think, at least a day, or maybe so, more longer than that. And that means that you've defiled yourself. And that's what we talk about. The Bible talks about that many, many times within the passage in the Old Testament, the New Testament. A lot of people defiling themselves, and this is what we're talking about when you're defiling. So it's no different now than it was thousands of years ago. Human nature, human beings are the same way. So when it comes down to this, you're losing that energy, but you're also losing part of God. I think God is within that semen. And this is why I go back to Charles made a great comment a while back, almost probably a year ago, probably something like that, talking about that the women, what they see is they see the image in you of God. And that would make perfect sense to me, because if you really believe that semen, the life force that God has given you, God has got a hand in that, he's created that, then basically he's part of that. And so why would you give up that? Just like when they talk about the temple of God, you are the temple of God. Are you taking care of that temple? Are you running it like a Porsche, high value as a physical type of thing? Or are you like a clunker? Car's about ready to break down. Are you about ready to break down? That's the key. So as you're retaining, you become more motivated to take care of your car as a Porsche or any kind of other fancy car you want to talk about. The analogy really is the same. As you retain more, you'll kind of see the benefits, and all of a sudden you think to yourself, I want to do more. So when I started retaining for the streak, and it's now at 1,120 days or whatever it is now, past 3 years, that I've now, once I started the first 30 days or so, became motivated. I'd say, okay, well, I'm going to start taking cold showers. I'm going to find other things, dieting, working out, doing exercises. And now I've gotten to the point over 3 years of doing a regimen of exercises and doing treadmill stuff, all the kind of stuff that I'd stayed away from for many years because I wasn't motivated. And once you start keeping your seed, all of a sudden you realize that God has given you that for a reason. You want to make you stronger. It want to make you that you're a tremendous masculine male that's intellectually strong, spiritual strong, and physically strong. Those things are important because in the bottom line of it, that people around you, your wife, your girlfriend, all these people, they want to know that they're safe with you, protection, and providing things. And you can do that if you have all your energy with you. This is the whole key, warriors. That's the key. God has given you that because God is recognizing you're one of the chosen ones. He has given this knowledge to you. You might wonder why we're the 1%. Well, I think we're the 1% because God has chosen us and we want to find out the truth. And the truth is not embedded in what we see in society right now. That's for the evil one and all the dominions that he's using, not that they're bad people, but he's using people to basically kind of disrupt and destroy the moral fabric of the Bible and everything else. And that's creating less men who are not masculine, and it's creating a lot of situations where this world could be destroyed very easily over a period of time. It's exactly what happened with the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire fell apart because they did not have enough people after a period of time to stand up to the forces, and they got destroyed within because of all these deviant behaviors. If you really think this is a situation now that this is all new age stuff, that people haven't done this stuff before, all the stuff that we see, during this month and all this other kind of stuff that we see, it's happened thousands of years ago. It's a repeating story in society, in the history, because people cannot survive their own success. And what happens is that they lose moral values. They lose the values that got them there in the beginning, and now they've lost God. And when you lose God, then everything you think you're God. You can do anything you want to do. There's no consequences. Well, they found the wrong way, like they did in Sodom and Gomorrah, and the Roman Empire and Babylon, and the Incas and the Mayas and even the English monarchy fell apart. All of those because they fell apart from within. All the lascivious behaviors, the greed, the corruption, all the, everything you want to add to it, anything you want to add to it, the same old thing. So this is not anything new in human nature, but we have to recognize it. We have to recognize it for what it is. This matrix that we have in our society, we need to get away from it. We need to figure out that it's important to meditate. It's important to pray. Whether you meditate or pray, I think it's about the same thing. Yes, you're doing different types of things, but you're still talking with God. It's important. I read the Bible in the morning every morning. Look at my goals, read the Bible. I sit there and look at that connection. The connection becomes stronger. One of the reasons why I'm shooting for 12 years when it comes to this is because the whole idea is that, and I've seen this talking to several people, Malcolm X was one of the people that I saw originally that said this, but that you're closer to God. Once you get done a number of years, you become less physical in your needs and your wants, and you become a lot more spiritual. And I believe that's the case. I see it happen. I know that we had Down to Earth was talking about it, and a lot of people talking about it. But the fact of the matter is that as you retain more, as you keep your nutrients, you're keeping what God's given you. It's almost like you're keeping your house intact. And God is a resident in all of our houses. But he can look at some people and say, okay, that house is falling apart. The evil one's taken over. And they don't recognize God. And that's the interesting thing about this. The people who are lascivious in their behaviors, you talk to 9 out of 10 of them, I bet you they may not, whether they believe in God or whether they follow any kind of God's rules, is very suspect. Because in the bottom line is that you have to have a belief in God to be able to even want to do this. Because what you're doing is you're trusting God and saying, Lord, I trust you that you're not going to be able to, you're not going to hurt yourself. Remember, we talked about how the doctor said you can't be in retention. This is terrible, right? This is terrible. Well, nothing's happened to me in 3 years. In fact, this is probably the best thing ever happened to me, right? Besides my relationship with God and my family. I mean, this is one of the best things that ever happened. I feel unbelievable. The power is unbelievable. And you continue doing this, and you realize that there is so much, and this is a normal thing. This should be normal. The reason we're talking about this, the reason we're doing videos on all this, is because it's 1% now. It's not normal. It used to be normal many years ago. Most people were, doing the other stuff behind closed doors. Now they're all in the open, walking around. People with no clothes on walking around. It is just phenomenal of how society has changed over the last number of years. But what doesn't change is the same human story. When people can't match their success and they can't live their success, they forget about how they got there. And now they become omniscient, like they're the God, and they can do no wrong. So they forget about God. They don't listen to God. They don't pray to God. They don't try to give to God. They don't try to talk with God, and they don't think that God's important anymore unless they have problems. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is they get themselves in a lot of problems, and God finally says, "Forget it," you know. And that's what happens in all these things we talked about, Sodom and Gomorrah, and all of a sudden, it took him a half an hour to destroy these areas, an hour maybe to destroy Babylon, and this is why the Bible talks about all this, because this is the same story that's happened over and over again. It doesn't matter what year, what century you're talking about. It's the same human story, that people lose God when they get things and they become successful. Power and greed and money, all these things becomes things that people find, and they replace God with those things. So this is why I think Down to Earth and TKO, you make some good points. We have to continue to know our base. Our base is God and your creator. Now, whichever God your creator is, and in whatever religion you believe in, that's your basis. Okay? Your basis is God. The reason why you have the strength to do this and to actually have long streaks is God has given you that strength. He knows what's right for you. You have a purpose, and he wants you to continue that purpose, but you got to control yourself first. You can't allow distractions and other things to mess you up. So we talk about all this stuff because we know the foundation is that you have to have the strength to follow God's purposes. And this is why we talk about things like meditation, prayer. We talk about trying to be closer to God. And you can do that by keeping your energy, by transmuting that energy into making yourself a stronger person mentally, physically, spiritually, all those type of things, and getting out there and completing the purposes that God wants you to have. And praying to God about what that purpose is, and knowing that you're going to have the support from him, and that all these other things, and having women in your life and having things that are enjoyable, those things will come. Don't worry about those things. Know that God will provide those things because you're following God, and that's faith, and that takes a lot of effort and faith to have. But if you have the faith, it took me many years to have the faith to go ahead and do this, and this was the best thing that ever happened to me. So, all right, my friends, anyway, great topic again: meditation, prayer, relationship with God through SR, getting rid of social anxiety. All those things are important. Continue, my friends, on with your battle. And always, I'll leave you with two things tonight. One, every day, like tomorrow, is going to be a great day and a new day for a great warrior. And this is why we continue to have to battle on!